All right, everybody, thank you very much for joining today's session. As I mentioned just a moment ago, this week's Fortnight is on what's new in Platform9 Managed Kubernetes 5.4. Once again, we always put these sessions on for everyone that joins. So if you are a user and you have questions, please raise your hand. Or if you're just getting to know a little bit about Platform9 today, feel free to ask away as well. If you are following along and want to ask questions but do not want to use Zoom, we also have a Slack channel that's open. That's slack.platform9.io will get you going. As always, if you want to have an account and try to build some clusters and run some applications, feel free to sign up at platform9.com/sign up. And today I am presenting by myself. However, there are people that are lurking on this call as well. David and Michael are here. So if you want to get them involved, just ask a question and I'll be sure to drag them in. And without further ado, I think I'm just going to jump straight into Platform9 5.4. What is new? Yesterday we did another webcast where we sort of went through a little bit more of a structured session where we looked at all the individual features sort of like page by page, but this time around, I think live demo is probably a better option. So for people that are new to Platform9, if you're signing up to the free tier, you're going to land on a welcome wizard. That wizard's really just going to be focused on getting your first cluster up and running, be it in AWS or Azure or building it on a VM or a physical host. Or if you have existing EKS, AKS, or GKE clusters, you can import those as well. Once you go through that, you'll land into the Platform9 web app that I have up on the screen right now. And starting from the top, there's a dashboard screen. This is really just built to give you a really quick overview about what's happening in your environment and a quick way to sort of jump in and build clusters and stuff like that. If there are elements here you don't like, feel free to click edit and remove them from your view, rearrange to your heart's content, click save, and it'll update for you. Moving on into 5.4. This release, we focused on a few different elements. Some of it was focusing on security and CIS benchmarking. Other elements were also sort of back-end focused. We added support for Kubernetes 1.21. You'll see here that all of these clusters are running 1.21. We also introduced support for Containerd. So if you're building new clusters on Platform9, you can choose between Docker and Containerd for a 1.21 cluster. We also made some changes to our managed add-ons. These are the applications that we bring as part of the managed Kubernetes solution that we build. Things like Core DNS, Kubernetes dashboard, our monitoring stack of Prometheus, Alert Manager, and Grafana, and a few other things like that. Those add-ons are now completely dynamic, and you can add and remove them at any time during the cluster lifecycle. So if you build let's say a BareOS cluster, so something that's a virtual machine-based or physical-based cluster, and you decide that you do want to use MetalLB, it's super easy to bring that back in. I'll touch on that as well. Aside from the back-end changes, we've also spent a lot of time working on this web application that you see right now on the screen and ensuring that we've got different elements that will help you as a user not just build a cluster and upgrade it and work with those add-ons, but importantly, start getting into those workloads and trying to figure out, hey, why does this work or why does this not work? Previously, we worked fairly exclusively with, kubectl command lines. Would say, hey, just download a kubeconfig and go run all those commands. As a product manager, I'm not a huge fan of typing in commands. And we asked a bunch of users questions, how would you like to interact? Run a few different user interviews with developers and different DevOps and SRE teams out there. And, the resounding, feedback was, some people love the command line. Others were like, yeah, I use the Kubernetes dashboard or I go and find some other type of IDE environment. So we made the decision to invest in those aspects. And we've got a bunch of new dashboards under workloads as well as storage that I'll touch on as well. So I guess where to start, I'm going to roll the dice here. I'm going to go and build a new cluster. I'm just going to do a one-click AWS one. I'm going to call it Upgrade Me. And by the end of this session, I want to go through an upgrade. Let me do West 2. Choose a location. Choose a key that I'm not going to use. Domain is completely optional. So if you don't have anything in Route 53, this will be blank. So do not worry about that. And I'm do 121. Here you can see exactly what's getting built. If I chose 121, you'll actually see the container runtime will default to container B, not Docker.
It might be cool. Oh, it might be cool to do. I was going to say do 119, and so somebody could see that you can actually skip versions in the upgrade strategy.
It'll skip the minors. It won't skip the. It'll skip the patches. It won't skip the minors.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
sorry, I misspoke.
If you've never seen a cluster built before in Platform9, that's what it is. That little toast notification that came up is saying there's no API server, which is pretty clear because we haven't even built the VMs yet. So that's often doing its thing. I'm going to start off with editing a cluster. So previously, when you built a cluster, you really had to sort of decide which add-ons you wanted and how should they run. As of 5.4, you'll be able to upgrade your clusters to 121, come in and click edit. And you're going to see this section here called cluster add-ons. And what this means is that anytime you can come in and add or remove any of these. So if I want to turn off etcd backup, I just click, that's gone. If I want to remove our monitoring, I can click that. That will also be gone. If you're brave and for some reason want to really make life difficult, like feel free to remove core DNS. But what you will also see happening down here is configuration overrides for each of these add-ons are appearing and disappearing. So my etcd config is here, my core DNS configuration. We have the ability to provide complete overrides. This is a base 64 encoded core DNS config. So you write a YAML file, encode it into base 64 and drop it in here. This is an advanced feature. And most of our growth and enterprise customers, we sort of encourage this work to be done in consultation with our support or our solution architecture team. Monitoring, different case, just got to provide a storage class and PVC size. I might actually do that now. I think I've got a storage class on my 5.4 Bear OS cluster. And this will actually show off some of our new features. So previously in storage classes, what we had was a pretty limited scope. You could see a storage class and that was it. With 5.4, you'll see that we've brought in the ability to see our persistent volumes, volume claims, CSI drivers, and importantly, we've introduced the ability to start installing storage providers. In this case, I'm using the host path CSI driver. It'll work across all things, but it's pretty well suited to single node clusters or smaller virtual clusters that you just want to play around with and have a storage class that's using a CSI driver. So you can sort of start understanding and learning a little bit more about storage and Kubernetes. I would definitely say do not use this in production. This is I'm learning, I'm testing, but from a demonstration purpose, I've installed this. I just click deploy. I chose the cluster 5.4, and you can immediately see that I've got this CSI driver installed. You see its capabilities, you can see the driver name, and it's got no volumes or volume claims. If I come back to storage class here, I can see its name is CSI host path. I'm just going to copy that text, and I'm going to use that when I edit the add-on. If I drill in here, once again, I've got details, and these are all new dashboards. You'll see that there's no claims here, no persistent claims either. And if I want to, I can click in and see events. If there's anything firing, if there's no events for it, you won't see it. And you can also see the YAML here, and you can edit that as well. So back to where we were, which is configuring our add-ons in real time. So our monitoring config is saying, out of the box, store data for 7 days. With no storage class, if you reset those pods, obviously you're going to lose that 7 days of retention. PVC size, I'm going to go with 1, update cluster. And that's now going to go and tell the add-on manager that runs in the SaaS Management Plane to go and upgrade or update that add-on with those new configurations. So if I come back in here and click edit and scroll down, you'll see this is now a persisted configuration. And shortly, we should start seeing volume claims appear for that monitoring configuration that's been deployed. So that's one of the areas that we've put a lot of investment into in the 5.4 release. Hopefully that's something that people have been waiting for to see, so they can start persisting monitoring data and sort of configuring and changing the monitoring capabilities in real time. Next, I sort of touched on our storage capabilities pretty quickly there. I think the next piece to talk about is where we've invested time in terms of making troubleshooting applications a lot easier. Anyone that's logged into Platform9 managed Kubernetes before will have noticed that we have workloads, those pods, deployments, and services, but we kind of stopped there. You would see a status. You might see a status message like this one, but you wouldn't really see much else than that. And you really couldn't get to the next layer of details. There was ability to get into the logs, but we really didn't assist you in saying, well, it's not running, what's going on. So in this development, we actually went through and said, how do we make this useful? And how do we enhance our users' experience? So we've built new dashboards at the top level for pods, deployments, and services, as you can see here. And all of these now have drill down dashboards where we start linking together all these different Kubernetes objects, including volume claims and their status and stuff like that. So if you are deploying an app and it does fail, you can very quickly come in and sort of say, oh, hey, that's why it's not working. Let's try to troubleshoot it through and fix it. So I'm going to be brave, and I am going to do a demo. 1 second as I actually just change to a different environment where I can grab this Bitnami chart URL for our application repositories. So we run Helm in the SaaS control plane. I'm just going to add Bitnami in here because it's got a great number of apps to demo. If you are on free tier, it attaches all repositories to all clusters. If you're on enterprise or growth, you can actually just control which clusters you get connected to. So this is going to add the Bitnami repo. And that means I can come back here to our app catalog, and I can say, I'm going to go and deploy a Bitnami app. And, the world over runs on WordPress, right? I am going to fight with Apple as it doesn't like WOR. I'm going to deploy WordPress. And I'm going to intentionally give it the wrong storage class name. So I'm going to put it on 5.4 BearOS. I'm just going to put it into default because I'm feeling a little bit lazy. And I'm going to scroll through this values.yaml, and I'm going to go csi.hostpath.local1. So it's going to go looking for this, and it's going to try to use it. And that's obviously going to cause some pretty catastrophic problems because it's not going to exist. Do I need to put it anywhere else? I don't think I do. Persistent access here, 2 spots. Ooh, 10 GI. I'm going to change that to 1 GI. I might have to go change that on my monitoring config as well. All right. Type load balancer. I don't have one of them, so I'm just going to make this node port. Actually, I'm going to leave that as load balancer. And I'm going to click deploy. Off it goes. And if everything works correctly, this should fail. The deployment will work. The pod will start, the service will start, but the containers are going to complain that they don't have any form of storage in any way, shape, or form. This happens. So obviously installing WordPress isn't instant. That's why that takes a little bit. If I come over to my deployed apps, as that deployment starts happening, that's going to appear here. And we will see WordPress. Its status is deployed. So if I come back to our workloads and, staying with what we had worked on previously, I'm going to have to extend this to maybe 50 pods. 5.4 BearOS is my cluster. This is our namespace. So I'm going to click refresh to fetch the latest information about all of my pods. And I can see here immediately that these have failed. We've got a few options, to investigate this. I could grab the kube config, open kubectl, and start running commands. Maybe I'm new. Maybe I'm a developer and I don't want to do that. I just want to figure out why the deployment didn't work. So, step 1, you just click drill in. And if there's events, you'll see it here. If there's logs, oh, that's not ideal. We'd be able to access the log files. Let me get back to that. So the pods are in pending state. There are no logs, right? This is a really unhappy container. I can come across to deployments and I can drill into my WordPress deployment. I can see the pods are all stuck in pending state, right? I can see the load balancer thinks it's got one. And the persistent volume claim is in pending state as well. Once again, I can come in and see my events, failed scheduling, has an unbound immediate persistent volume claim. So I could have gone looking for this previously in Platform9. My option would have been go to the command line. Now you can just click, open up that deployment, and you can see immediately here, right? This is not found. It's not found because it doesn't exist. So if I come back here to storage and actually grab the correct storage class, I can come back to my app, my deployed app, and I'm just going to edit this Helm chart in real time and hopefully resurrect this application.
We need a little more hopefulness. You need to be, cup half full kind of guy. You know what I'm saying?
When things work, demos aren't as fun. When I was in pre-sales, you just pray that everything went smoothly. Now I'm in product management. I'm just like, break. All right. I want the red flashing lights. Paste. Where's my next one? Here we go. Paste. Deploy. Let's go. It's going to update. I'm going to check to see if we have any questions that have come in. I don't see any Q&A. I don't see any in the chat. Request failed with 500. Error, cannot edit deployed app. That is not ideal. All right.
Hey, wait a minute. You asked for that.
I did ask for that. I prayed to the demo gods and they responded with, here, smite.
Yes.
One of the things we have changed is we've attempted to make our notifications a little bit more informative as part of 5.4. There's 2 main buckets of errors that can happen when you're using Platform9. There are events related to our services that run in the SaaS control plane, and there are also errors that come back from the cluster themselves. Some of these interactions you're seeing are a mixture of both. So obviously Helm, the web app is talking to Helm. Helm is then talking to your cluster. So that's something where it's running through the SaaS management plane via a Platform9 API. On the workloads dashboard, if I actually went to that YAML tab and edited that YAML, that's going from the web app securely through a Kubernetes API proxy and going directly to that cluster and making that change. So those events and errors are actually grouped under our cluster errors here. And you can see I've got a few in here from yesterday, and I've got one from here this morning at 9:10, unable to fetch persistent volume claim items. Any of these you can just click on, and you're going to get a bunch of information about these. This could be something that's, incorrectly formed YAML file when you're trying to deploy a pod, as an example, or incorrect typecasing in terms of this. I was trying to create a virtual machine in our KubeVirt support that we have now. That's where this error came from. If you're working with us on Slack, this is great information that you can just copy and share with us, either via screenshots or what have you. So this can help really troubleshoot what's going on when you're working with apps as well. If you don't want to see them, just click clear. They're all going to go away. Platform9 Events. You can see here, I got a bunch from yesterday because I was in here doing demos. This method put status 500. That is not ideal. That is not the type of error I want to see. And I'm going to have to attempt to do this again or delete it and come back later. So
are you going to be more positive? Or are you going to talk bad about it along the way?
I'm gonna talk bad about it the entire way.
Well, then you don't deserve to get any green. You're going to get all red.
I'm going to get all red. WordPress is also hating me. Confirm.
Looks like we have a question too. Anything new regarding libvirt? So KubeVirt.
KubeVirt, there are. As this is often deleting, I can talk about what we've done there. So our initial release of KubeVirt was really about sort of just exposing the fact that the functionality is there in the product, and that you could interact with it once again from the command line interface and build VMs, kind of at a prototype type layer if you're looking at it. What we have worked on in this release is making KubeVirt a dynamic add-on, so it's something you can add and remove from the cluster at any time, as well as bringing in new dashboard elements for creating virtual machines and virtual machine instances, as well as managing their state in the life cycle as well. So I'll touch on those after I click app catalog and deploy this WordPress again, because I am feeling very brave. Deploy. Oh, I did it. It's going to be the wrong app. I should turn off my Apple autocomplete.
So we have another question too, Chris, from Anthony. Will terminal access return to the UI?
Will terminal access return to the UI? We have an internal prototype of terminal access in the UI. I'm not going to make any commitments to when that might return, but it is something that we have seen as an important feature that people want or would like returned. So we'll definitely start working on that at some point. Object. That's not what I had in my case. Copy back. Word 2. All right. Default. Take 3. Live demo. I am being brave. Paste. I'm going to make this 1. And I'm going to make this also 1. And I'm going to click deploy. That is now off and deploying. Hopefully this time it all comes up because it's got the right storage path. And hopefully that was a good demonstration of how to get into using some of the new sort of IDE type features for troubleshooting applications, and really making life a little bit easier when working with Kubernetes. All right, so we have a new deployment, 0 of 1 pods. We can drill in here, containers creating. You can see there's no events. Look at that. Attached volumes exceeded. I think we're getting much closer to a happy environment here. You can also see the service here we can drill into. One of the things that's sort of important with Kubernetes, especially for people that are new, a lot of apps in Helm, if you're playing around with them, will be looking for a load balancer to expose any of your services. In this case, this cluster does not have a load balancer. I did not deploy Metal LB. So if I want to access that, it's going to be a little bit of a pain. What I can do is I could come down here and just change this to node port. Click save. That's going to go and change this to a node port, which means I can then access this on an external IP that's running on the node on that port. And if WordPress does start, I can show you the blog. That is really praying to the demo gods that it's all going to go well.
We're really asking for it now.
Yeah.
Oh, looks like we got another question from Anthony. Should I be worried about going directly to 5.4 if I'm still on 5.3.0?
Nope, an upgrade will be seamless. That's part of the upgrade process. If you're on something like 5.2, you'd generally go 5.2, 5.4. If you're on the new platform that we're demoing here, you just get upgraded with everyone else. So, but it sounds like you're on the enterprise, so definitely work with the support team and schedule that at a time that is beneficial to you guys, and go from there. I wonder if this has decided to work. WordPress running.
Yeah, you got one of one.
Yeah. One of storage is linking everything up. There we go. Bound.
Wow. Look at
Volume
you.
claims. And you can see it all mapped back to the CSI driver as well, which is pretty cool. Can we get to the service? This is the question. I am on the VPN. So technically speaking, I should be able to drill into this cluster, grab this, open up a new tab, paste 443.
Wah, wah.
No, I've got a percent symbol in here.
Typo there.
What did it?
Yeah, %20 is a space.
Space. Look at this.
Uh-oh.
Show details. I can visit this website if I click on 5 things, and because I'm on a Mac, type in my password.
My goodness.
I am unauthorized.
Do you know what the default is of WordPress, like to get to whatever they load up, index.html or something?
I do not. I think it might be /WP or /admin or WP-admin maybe.
/WP.
Nope.
Nope.
Demo gods fail.
No, go back over to HTTPS though. No.
Oh, there's the end of that. If you're new to Kubernetes, this happens all the time. All the time. I'm sure if we were doing a live stream on Twitch, there'd be people being like, oh my God, how do I fix this problem? We'll get into it.
So the most sensible, smart question has just been asked. This is possibly the best question ever in the history of this series. Anthony has asked, why is Chris pushing his luck so much?
Because you gave me like full control of this demonstration. So I thought I'm just
that's
going in.
Yep.
And I'm going to Kubernetes it up. Yeah. You will have noticed there's a few other things that I've been playing around with. Default namespaces. I set default as my default. This is per user, right? So now every time I go to a dashboard, it's going to load default first. If there's no default set, it will just choose whatever is first alphabetically. You can do exactly the same thing for clusters. So here is upgrade me, the one we just built. I'm going to set that as my default. And when I come back to workloads, upgrade me is going to start loading. And this takes me to another new feature that's part of 5.4. Some people might have seen it in 5.3, but we built this cluster so we can demonstrate this. I can click this button that says upgrade available. And I now have options about how I want to do this upgrade. So sequential is what we also always used to use and still do recommend for the least interruptive upgrade possible. Sequential will go through and upgrade the control plane nodes, and then it will go through each worker node one by one. However, if you do have 500 nodes, that's going to take some time. So we have introduced the ability to say percentage-wise, how many nodes do I want to upgrade? If you said 10% and you had 100, it'll take 10 offline at a time. If you are feeling very adventurous, we now give you the ability to say, I want to move my nodes into a batch that are upgraded, and I'm going to click upgrade. I'm going to come back and complete that upgrade myself. This is an advanced feature. I would definitely recommend if you're on growth or enterprise, letting support know, hey, I'm doing an upgrade. I'm going to go through this batch process by myself. It's not great. It's not great to have worker nodes on one version of Kubernetes and also on another version of Kubernetes. So if you do choose this and start, make sure you finish. It could not be fun if it fails.
Jonas is asking, I see my Platform9 portal already changed to 5.4. Do I need to do anything on my clusters already deployed?
If you see an upgrade button, feel free to upgrade them. We always recommend sort of staying current as well. So please do.
So Jonas, the details there are in 5.3, we were supporting Kubernetes 1.20. So PMK considered that the most up-to-date version. So you didn't see any sort of upgrade available. Now, your PMK instance has been upgraded to 5.4, which means 5.4 supports Kubernetes 1.21. So it does consider there to be an upgrade. So that's why Chris is saying you automatically get upgraded to 5.4 as far as PMK products concerned. But then your clusters that PMK is managing, those are on you to choose when to do that. I hope that makes sense.
Yep. Cool. All right. Next thing. Now we've spent some time clicking around and viewing our new dashboards to help you with your applications. We're going to get into role-based access control and cluster profiles. We've always had the ability to come in and visually edit or create new pieces of RBAC policy. That's always had a visual representation of all the resources and the API groups. And, for example, here I can click edit and add some roles. I'm not going to do that, but that's always been there. And, that helps people sort of come in and say, hey, what's in this? Who can do what? What have we changed in 5.4? I'm going to start with going to our admin settings and showing that we've brought in the ability to create local user groups. So if I click new group, I can call this test and QA, say that's for my test team. I can say that they've got self-service access. And if I'm being mean, I'm going to put David in there. So the next time he logs in, he's only going to have self-service access.
Thanks.
So now I've got a group in Platform9 that group will associate all those users to self-service or admin, if that's what you chose. If I come back here and I go to RBAC and I can say, I want to make a new role binding. And I'm going to click add. I can see down here, instead of having to choose users, I can just say test QA. And
Cool.
I can attach them to a role. And obviously select the namespace. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
To go one step further, if you're managing multiple clusters, your options for managing RBAC policies are to programmatically connect to the cluster, collect all those policies, store it somewhere, and then apply them to assume that you've got a consistent baseline across all of your clusters. Or you can come into Platform9 and use a new feature that we've released called Profiles Engine. And you can use it to help manage your role-based access control across all of your clusters. Pretty simple process. You can come in and click create. I'm going to call this QA. And I'm going to say, I want to base this off of my BearOS cluster. I'm going to click next. And from here, you can actually say, well, what roles do I want to put in here? So I just decided to show all of them. If you're not sure what is inside of a role, you can click on it and you'll be able to see the cluster, the namespace, the API group, and its resources that it can do. I'm just going to check all of them. And I'm just going to do this for everything because it might be fun for demonstration purposes. You click next. Same with all the bindings, and click next. You can review what you've got in here. If you want to go back and change it, obviously just click back, click done. What this is doing right now is the profile engine is connecting to the cluster and it's saying, hey, give me all of these different Kubernetes RBAC policy objects. And we're going to create a profile based off of that. Once it's finished creating, you are then able to edit it and customize it to your heart's content. And you're also then able to then deploy it to other clusters so that you can bring them into conformance. So this is a way of doing what the industry is kind of calling GitOps. It's using as code principles to control the conformance of your clusters in real time. This might take a little bit to create because I told it to collect everything, and it's running on a VM that's not very well spec'd. We'll just give that one more moment. If not, I'm going to change to another demo platform, which is also running 5.4, which I am going to do. So as always, here is one I prepared earlier. So exactly the same, it's 5.4. It's just got a bunch of different clusters and most of them are broken. So when you first create a cluster profile, it gets created in a status called draft. The reason we do this is because you might want to edit it first. And if you're in a big team, you don't want someone accidentally deploying a profile that is not ready. So I've selected this. I'm just going to click edit. And I can come in here and I can say, what's in this profile? I can see that there's quite a few. And I might say that I want to edit our Kubernetes dashboard cluster role. What this is going to do, it's going to use the cluster. By default, it's going to use the cluster that the profile was built off of, which is this one called AZ. It's gone through and it's connected to that cluster and it said, all right, what are all the APIs and objects and verbs that are available? And I can say core services proxy get, I want to edit that. And this is loading dynamically from the cluster. So it's not going to show you anything that's not available. And I'm not going to change that. That seems something that could be interesting. I'm not going to change any of these. Actually, I might just click add API group apps, and I'm just going to add get list on deployments, get list, and click add. If I want to switch to view the YAML, I can just click this and it's going to show me the YAML of what this is. Click save. And now I've modified this, click save again. That's committed it to this. And I can say, all right, this is ready to be used. I'm going to click publish. This is just going to change its state to something that you can actually then go through and deploy to clusters. So I've now got the ability to say is my Azure baseline, and I want to deploy this to, I don't know, my delete me cluster in AWS. But it has an active profile, so I actually won't be able to do that. I will need to first come in, manage bindings, and delete the profile binding. What that will do is disassociate the profile engine from the cluster, which means it's going to leave all of the policies it put in place on that cluster in place. I'm now going to say Azure baseline deploy, and I can see now it doesn't have an active profile. I've got two options. I can just go through and deploy this, or I can say, hey, what's going to change if I do this? So I'm going to click show impact analysis. What this is going to do is it's going to connect to that cluster. It's going to collect all of the role-based access control policies, and it's going to bring them back to the SaaS Management Plane, and we're going to run a diff analytics between the two, and we're going to present the results to you. So this can take some time. Whilst that is doing that, I'm going to come back here, and I got logged out. Wow. That's never happened before.
Oh, that's a feature.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen that. Security. Still creating. I really did ask the demo gods to.
Oh, you're so past that. Yeah.
What I'm actually hoping is that this environment, which is in staging, is not getting upgraded as I'm doing this demo. There is a high likelihood that that has happened. All right, we can wait for that to finish. What else?
Want to talk about drift?
The impact analysis and drift are the same thing. It just inverts it. I'm going to deploy this, what will change? Or I have deployed this, what is different? Makes sense?
Okay.
Yeah. API access, it's been here for a couple of versions, but if you are wanting to learn more about the Platform9 APIs, this is a great way to get in. Get virtual machine instances, 5.4 Bare OS, make API requests, and look, these are our KubeVirt virtual machines and their config. Or you can actually come to virtual machines and see what is happening here. And
actually, so before you get into this, because this is going to be a good one to show, Jonas has asked, we can see that we can add MetaLB after a cluster has been deployed. Can we also change the IP address pools after the load balancer has been deployed?
You can. Let me go there. Let me do edit Bare OS. So deploy MetaLB. Where are we? Address pools. 10, 10, 10, 1, 10, 10, 10, 50. You can add more. You can do this at any time in the life cycle of MetaLB. Now, there is, for people that are on our enterprise plans, there is actually another override that's not displayed in the UI here. It's an advanced config. It allows you to dynamically set up and configure BGP pairing, or you can also set up named pools and start using those as well. We will look to bring those configs into the UI and make it a little bit easier. Right now, that has to be done via the API, but that's all dynamic. I'm going to click update cluster. It's going to go and break everything because I don't have any addresses available, especially in that range. So this will be interesting. And look, what's going to happen if I deploy this profile? Roles, 0 will be added. None will be unchanged. 2 will be modified. So Kubernetes dashboard is going to change. Kube state metrics is going to change. If I view this, you can sort of see the APIs that are in here that are going to get added to it. Same thing for cluster roles, role bindings, and cluster role bindings. I am actually thoroughly impressed about how little is getting changed on this.
Because the clusters have stayed in sync.
Yeah, I mean, it's Platform9 Kubernetes on the 2 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jonas thanks you, by the way. Thank you.
No worries. I'm going to click deploy. It's going to go off and do its thing. And then I'm going to go to virtual machines. So this is trying to pull VMs from something that doesn't have any VMs. As with everything in Kubernetes, you really need to know the namespace. If you don't know the namespace, just choose all and you will see them. So these are 2 VMs that I created yesterday. They are not going to work because they are running on a single node cluster called 5.4 BarOS. And I have very minimal setup for KubeVirt running in the back end. So I literally just created these so you can see them in the screens. We do have interactions here so you can start, stop, and restart things. You can come and click edit and come and edit the YAML file if you so do wish to do that. But importantly, if you're just getting started with KubeVirt, you can come in and say create new virtual machine, choose a cluster that has KubeVirt installed, and step through this wizard to create a virtual machine.
Would you mind just explaining the difference between virtual machine and VM instance?
Oof. You know, upstream in KubeVirt, they have decided to create 2 objects. One is a VM, one is an instance. I guess the easiest way to articulate the difference is a VM instance is the VM running. So you can create a VM instance and it's basically always going to be there, consuming resources in some form on your cluster. If you make a virtual machine, you can then choose what they call a run strategy. Run strategies essentially tell KubeVirt as an operator what should be happening with this VM. So if I was to make a new VM and say always, and I will go through this wizard, what's going to happen when it finishes is you're actually going to see, I've really got to set this to be 5.4 again. You're going to see a VM here under virtual machines. And you would also see a corresponding VM instance, but I don't have any running. So that's why you're not seeing anything here.
So can I think of this? I'm just kind of grasping this, and I'm going to put it in terms that I understand. The way I'm looking at this is kind of like the difference between a container and an image, right? An image is I created this definition of how I want the application to run and whatever it is to run. And so I need to build an image of that. And that would be to KubeVirt a virtual machine. And then I can use that image to run a container live. That would be a VM instance. Or I can just run a container straight out. And I don't have to, well, I guess I do have to be necessarily off a VM or a image. I don't know. And my thinking is kind of going there where I'm looking at the two, like one is a stored kind of golden image kind of thing. And then you can run instances of that. And the other one is just, I want to run this one time and, it's just a one-time deal.
Yeah, that's not a bad approximation for it. You see here, VM instances, I've got 3 options: pause, unpause, delete. There's no shutdown.
Yeah.
So
okay.
if you want to treat it like a virtual machine of the VMware world, you should make virtual machines. When they're running, you'll see their instances here. These are like suspending a VM tasks. And then depending on what the depending on your run strategy here will impact what KubeVirt will do if someone was to shut down that VM, or maybe that VM crashes. So if this is set to always, and you try to shut down the virtual machine, it's going to get automatically booted back up.
Right.
So it's applying some principles from Kubernetes to the world of virtual machines. It is slightly confusing, and I think that's something that we should do a dedicated session on with Chris Papp, the product manager.
Yeah. We got another question here. First of all, Anthony has a nice suggestion of naming your clusters Vegas or Atlantic City to respect the gambling that you're doing here. But more to the point, does Platform9 recommend anything for transferring VMs from vSphere, VMware vSphere, to KubeVirt?
Ooh, good question. I am going to say that we will need to reach out back to you after this. I'm feeling brave. I'm not feeling that brave to committing our solution architecture team. You can definitely migrate VMs. We've worked with some of our customers on doing that. Obviously, just like OpenStack, Linux VMs are a lot easier than Windows VMs, but it is possible to run Windows VMs on KubeVirt. And
it's basically, sorry, Chris. It's basically just like OpenStack, right? Like you're just going to be installing VirtIO on Windows and stuff like that. So it's involved, right? Like you got to change it over from working on VMware to adding cloud in it and that kind of stuff. Like it's going to work a lot like OpenStack. So pretty much the same deal, like you're saying, Chris.
Yeah. It's tried, it's true, it's tested, it's repeatable.
I'll say that's actually something that we'll probably be addressing in a blog post or maybe a video in the next like month or two. That's something I'm actually working on.
Oh, cool.
There you go.
I would love to have a Windows VM I can log into at any date and time.
I think everybody would love to have a Windows VM they could log into.
Yeah. You know what I didn't touch on? I really should have.
We got 4 minutes. Make it quick.
4 minutes. One of these windows that I have open. I think it's this one. If I connect to this VM.
You're only sharing your Safari window.
See, I'm so used to sharing my entire screen. I'm click stop share. Share. I got to pick a terminal. I think it's this one. Share. Let me make it bigger. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the VM running that cluster. And I have installed the Platform9 CLI. Super easy. I ran this curl command. It downloaded it. Please don't use this particular one because that's a dev build. But I can now hit help, and I'm going to see that I am not running the latest version. So I can then run Platform9 CTL upgrade. It's going to say, are you sure you want to do this? I'm going to click yes. And it's going to download and install the latest version of the Platform9 CLI. I can run version, and I can see I'm on version 1.9. That's a new feature for the CLI. You'll also see that there is check Amazon provider, which I think is a pretty cool command.
Oh, that's very handy.
Chuck that in, and I'm just going to be like random stuff. If my internet just doesn't die, enter, bang. Invalid. If they were valid, what would actually happen is it would go through and it would check the identity and access management policy and spit out the results. So you can see whether or not you've got the right policy running. If you don't, you can just head to our docs and grab the correct policy off of our GitHub. Same set of features for Azure and Google as well. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, you can see here there's a bunch of commands like attach node for scaling clusters up and down, prep node for getting nodes ready. But that's new, that's live, and that's out today.
Nice.
Yeah.
And for those wondering, we're talking about the cloud providers in the UI and the PMK UI. When you're looking to create a cloud provider and you go through the wizard, it doesn't give you a whole lot of feedback. It just says no. And so Chris has just shown you a very nice way to provide those same credentials and get some useful feedback on why.
Yeah. Hot off the press. Hopefully this session was informative.
Great. We covered it all just in an hour.
We did. I even did some very brave demos.
Yeah, you did.
You know, I'm going to get to this WordPress instance. I'm going to make that work.
A quick question from Anthony. For Platform9 5.4, are there any updates for those with on-prem environments?
That are explicit for Bare OS? You know, Container D 121, the dynamic add-on management, that's across all environments. It would be very rare for us to do something that is explicit for one environment and not another.
It's safe to say that everything we've seen here, I'm sure there are caveats, but most of what we've seen here applies to both free tier and on-premise enterprise.
Right. If you are running on our legacy platform, which is not what I was demoing today, you can work with our support team to migrate onto that new environment, which will give you the cluster profiles features, the Helm-based Helm service in the SaaS Management Plane, and I think that's about it right now.
Awesome.
There are some differences there.
Well, so for those of you on enterprise that want to know the exact list of what did I just see and what do I not get in enterprise from free tier, please contact support. They can have all that information.
And WordPress is not coming up because it is in crash loop back off.
You deserve that.
I do. You ask and you get.
But you're saved. But you're saved by the clock because it's time.
It says in all its glory, for one last share. You ready? Cannot connect to the database server.
Wah, wah.
Maybe because I changed the service type. I don't know.
Yeah, you did change like 4 different things all at once. So
I did. I prayed and said, smite me, and it did. So hopefully this was a good session, everyone. As always, these sessions are for you, the attendees. So we will talk about anything until we get questions. If there's a topic that you really want us to get into because it's, I don't know, your jam or impacting your job, just reach out on Slack, shoot us an email, or our community message boards as well. They're all there. We're really game to basically do anything. So
yeah.
Thank you all for your time.
Good times.
All righty. It is Thursday, so I guess everyone have a great Thursday, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for another Fortnite session.
See everybody.